So the BMW S1000R is undoubtedly an awesome naked bike, but I don't think you could quite call it a true super naked like the Ducati Street Fighter V4S or the MV Agusta Brutale 1000RR. It just doesn't make those ridiculous power levels or have that super premium level of finish. But this week, that all changed because BMW announced a new version that builds upon the S1000R platform and slingshots it into the super naked segment with a whole bunch of tasty upgrades. It's called the M1000R, so you could think of it as a naked equivalent to their M1000RR superbike, and I've got to say it looks pretty incredible. So is it now the king of the nakeds, or just some winglets and a fancy paint job? Well, in this video, we'll go over all of the details to find out. Now look, I'll tell you straight up, it's not just a fancy graphics kit. There's some fundamental changes here, like the engine, which has had a complete transformation. You see, with the S1000R, the main reason you couldn't put it on a par with the Ducati, for example, is the power output. 165 horsepower peak at 11,000 RPM puts it somewhere in the middle of the naked segment, and although it's more than enough bike for 99% of riders, on the spec sheet top trumps, it's over 40 horsepower down on some of the competition. Why is that? Well, because it uses a version of their inline 4 that you'll also find in the S1000XR crossover sports tourer, and that engine biases more so towards a usable spread of power and torque that works well on the road, as opposed to that ballistic top end that you'll find in some of the competition. So the M1000R needed something drastic in order to make it competitive, and that's exactly what they've done by transplanting in a version of the engine found in their M1000RR 30 grand megabike. There are loads of little tweaks here and there that give it more performance, but the big one is their shift cam variable valve timing and lift system, which you'll also find in the regular S1000RR sports bike. Now you'll have to excuse the videos showing shift cam on their Boxer Twin here, but it's pretty much the best illustration I can find of it in action. Basically, you've got two sets of cams on the intake, one more moderate and the other more aggressive with more lift. So cruising along at under 9,000 RPM, you'll get the moderate cam, which prioritizes fuel efficiency and torque. But get on the gas, and as the revs climb, an electronically actuated pin slides the camshaft over onto the sporty cam profile, and that gives you top-end revs and peak power. It's a clever system, especially in the strict emissions regulations that manufacturers now have to obey, and they say the result in the M1000R is the same mid-rangey usability and torque as the S1000R, but with a newfound top end that's more akin to one of their sports bikes, and that makes it a proper track weapon. Ultimately, the result is a new peak power of 210 horsepower up at 13,750 RPM, and I think I'm right in saying that that now makes it the most powerful naked bike you can currently buy, full stop, at least from a major manufacturer. So more than the Ducati, more than the MV Agusta, and more than Kawasaki's supercharged ZH2. It really is an impressive claim, and it definitely helps give the M1000R a position in the market that just wasn't possible with the S. Plus, they've shortened the gearing both at the rear sprocket and in 4th, 5th and 6th in the box, and so it really ought to feel very snappy out on the road or track. But it's not just the engine, there are loads of updates all across the bike, and we'll get onto them right after I say a massive thanks to Cardo for sponsoring this video. Now look, I absolutely love working with products like the Pack Torque Edge because I genuinely feel like it's the best comms unit in the market. I've been using it for a few months now, and certainly out of everything that I've tried, it's a cut above. The sound quality is awesome with the JBL design speakers, the noise gating is perfect so you don't get loads of wind noise, and then the mesh networking is just unreal, up to 15 riders with up to a mile between each, and if someone drops off, it'll just auto heal when they catch up, so no need to manually pair again. Honestly, it transforms your group rides, it makes them way more fun, as well as helping with the practicalities like directions and diversions. Plus, look at how neat this magnetic attachment is for the comms unit. Anyway, I wholeheartedly recommend them, so there's a link down in the description if you want to find out more, along with a 10% discount code specifically for my viewers. So once again, a massive thanks to Cardo for their support. Now onto the chassis, and while it does get the same frame design as the S1000R, there are loads of little choice tweaks across the rest of the chassis components. So fully adjustable suspension as you'd expect, but you get an adjustable spring base on this model, and their dynamic damping control comes as standard. So it's electronically controlled and ties in with the riding modes, as well as allowing you to dial in the damping manually through the switchgear and dash. Now you also get their bling looking M-brake setup with the blue anodization, and this is a feature first seen on the M1000R when it launched a year or two back, and they say they developed it with all the experience they've got from their factory machines in the Superbike World Champs. So you get 4-piston radially mounted M-brake calipers on 320mm discs, plus a radial master cylinder for the front brake there, and the result, they say, is the pinnacle of brake development in the field of road legal systems, with the perfect balance of power, fade stability and response. Next up, the wheels. So you get their lightweight forged aluminium wheels as standard on the M1000R, and so that's less rotating mass, which helps with acceleration, braking and changes of direction, but also less unsprung mass, so it lets the suspension do its job a little more easily. Should you want to go a step further though, you've got the option of the M carbon wheels in the accessories catalogue as part of the M competition package, which also includes some fancy rear sets and absolutely loads of carbon bits. Now shoving the whole bike into the ground, you've got a pair of brand spanking new winglets, which they say can generate up to 11 kilograms of downforce at 220 kilometers per hour. So pretty track focused speeds there, but the idea is you can brake later with more grip on the front, and also accelerate harder earlier with the winglets pushing the front end down, meaning the anti-wheelie is less likely to kick in. The downside is they do create a bit of drag on the straights, but BMW have managed to offset that with a new wind deflector as part of the M competition package that smooths the airflow around the rider and makes it just as slippery as the wingless S1000R at high speeds. Now every good super naked now comes with bags of tech, and the M1000R certainly delivers. In fact, I can't think of much that it doesn't have. You've got a 6.5-inch TFT display that has pretty much any data point imaginable, right down to things like average throttle position per lap or number of gear shifts per lap if you're out on the track. Now you can of course use the dash to configure the riding modes, so there are the standard road bias modes like rain, road and dynamic, but you also get the race pro modes of 1 through to 3, and those allow you to dial in the rider aids yourself, of which there are many. So you've got throttle modes, engine braking settings, a 6-axis IMU gives you lean sensitive traction control and ABS, as well as wheelie control, launch control, and then loads of other conveniences like cruise control, a cornering headlight and hill hold control. There's even a new brake slide control feature which allows the rider to drift the bike into a turn using the back brake, and the electronics will modulate the ABS and engine drag torque control to keep things in check. Specifically for track riders, you've got a pit lane limiter, a data logger, a lap timer, and so yeah, I don't think there's really anything that it's lacking. On the outside though, a super naked has to look the nuts, and there was only one way to go for this bike with the M Sport branding. So you've got two color choices, you've got the white or the black, and personally I think the white looks pretty much spot on. Now they've also included some nice other little finishing touches on this bike, like the M Sport seat, which they say offers a little more grip. You've got the bar end mirrors as standard and the titanium Akropovich silencer, and there's even a little M badge inside the headlight, which shows how far they've gone to make this thing look special. So yeah, certainly from a specs perspective, it's got all the hallmarks of a super naked now, but unfortunately it's now got the price tag to match, starting at £19,480. That's about £7,000 more than the starting price of the S1000R, which is quite the hike for what is effectively an evolution of that model. But you could argue, compare it to the M1000RR, and it's a snip at effectively 2/3 of the price, especially given given that you get pretty much the same engine. Plus, it's now the most powerful naked bike on the market, like I said earlier, and yet it's cheaper than the closest competition like the Ducati or the MV. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of it down in the comments below, and which bike would you go for out of the super nakeds currently on the market? Not sure? Well, I've got a list of the best new naked bikes for 2022, and you can watch it by clicking right here now.